The vast expanse of space erupted in a dazzling display of destructive power. Beams of searing energy crisscrossed the void, connecting the mammoth warships of the Zaxthan Empire to their unfortunate prey. The Creel's last defensive fleet, once proud and mighty, now reduced to little more than drifting debris and rapidly cooling plasma. Admiral Vexicor stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Eternal Dominion. His 4 eyes narrowed in satisfaction as he watched the final Creel cruiser split apart under the relentless barrage of his ships. Another species brought to heel, he rumbled, mandibles clicking in amusement. The Emperor will be pleased. His second-in-command, Sub-Admiral Zixara, approached with a data tablet clutched in one of her lower arms. The Creel homeworld is defenseless. Admiral, shall we commence orbital bombardment? Vexcor waved a dismissive upper arm. Unnecessary. The Creel know they're beaten. Prepare a delegation to accept their surrender and begin the assimilation process. As Zixara turned to carry out his orders, a junior communications officer suddenly straightened at his station, antenna twitching in agitation. Admiral, we're receiving a distress signal. It's from Outpost Gamma 9 in Sector 87. Vexcor frowned. Sector 87 was a backwater region, largely ignored due to its lack of resource-rich planets or spacefaring civilizations. Put it through, he commanded. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a panicked Zaxthan officer. Static garbled his words, but the message was clear. Under attack. Unknown vessels. Weapons unlike anything. Request immediate ass. The transmission cut off abruptly. A hushed silence fell over the bridge. It had been centuries since any force had successfully attacked a Zaxthan outpost. Scramble a response fleet, Vexcor ordered, his voice cold. I want answers. Days later, aboard the Eternal Dominion, Vexcor received the report from the response fleet. The news was troubling. Outpost Gamma 9 had been completely destroyed, its debris field suggesting weaponry far beyond what the Empire typically encountered. More disturbingly, the attackers had left no trace of their identity or origin. As the Admiral pondered this new threat, Zixara approached once more. Admiral, the scout ship Vigilant Whisper has returned from its deep space reconnaissance mission. They report an anomaly. Vexcor's interest peaked. Show me. The main view screen lit up with images of a blue-green planet, teeming with life and surrounded by primitive satellites. We've found an inhabited world in Sector 88, just beyond the border of our territory, Zixara explained. The dominant species appears to be in the early stages of space exploration. Vexcor studied the images intently. Something about this unassuming planet nagged at him. Any signs of advanced technology? Zixara hesitated. Nothing that should concern us. Admiral, their spacecraft are primitive, limited to their own solar system. However, she paused, mandibles twitching nervously. Speak freely, Sub-Admiral. The Vigilant Whisper detected unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface. They're unlike anything in our databases. It could be nothing, but given the recent attack. Vexcor's eyes narrowed. Could this backwater world be connected to the destruction of Outpost Gamma 9? It seemed unlikely, but the coincidence was too great to ignore. Prepare a small fleet, he decided. We'll investigate this world personally. If they're responsible for the attack, we'll crush them. If not, we'll add another species to the Empire. Either way, the Emperor will be pleased with our initiative. As preparations began for the expedition to the mysterious blue planet, Vexcor couldn't shake a feeling of unease. The Zaxthan Empire had reigned supreme for millennia, their technology and military might unmatched across the known galaxy. Yet something about this situation felt different. Little did Admiral Vexicor know that his decision to investigate this unassuming world, a planet its inhabitants called Earth, would set in motion a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of the Empire. The galaxy was about to change forever, all because of humanity's lone warship and the indomitable spirit of a species the Zaxthan had gravely underestimated. The invasion fleet departed, its commander blissfully unaware that he was not the hunter, but the hunted. Humanity's finest hour was about to begin. General Samantha Chen stood before the holographic display, her face illuminated by the eerie glow of an approaching alien fleet. The war room of Earth's United Defense Command was a hive of frantic activity, filled with the world's brightest minds working against an impossible deadline. Time to arrival. Chen's voice was steady, belying the weight of humanity's fate resting on her shoulders. 17 hours, General, replied her AI assistant, AI. The alien fleet has decelerated, presumably to launch long-range scans of our defenses. Chen allowed herself a grim smile. Good. That buys us a little more time. She turned to address the assembled leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, Operation Phoenix is no longer a drill. Our worst fears have been realized. We are not alone in the universe, and our first contact is hostile. The room fell silent, the gravity of the situation palpable. But we are not unprepared, Chen continued, her voice gaining strength. For decades, we've pushed the boundaries of science and engineering, knowing this day might come. Now, humanity's future rests on our greatest achievement, the ESS Artemis. With a gesture, she brought up schematics of a sleek warship unlike anything ever seen on Earth. Its hull gleamed with a material that seemed to absorb light, dotted with weapon systems that defied conventional understanding of physics. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the lead scientist of the Phoenix Project, stepped forward. The Artemis incorporates every breakthrough we've made in the last 30 years. Quantum-entangled communications, dark matter reactors, graviton beam weapons. She's a melding of theoretical science and engineering prowess that we've kept hidden from our own satellites to maintain secrecy. And you're certain she'll fly? Asked the Chinese premier, skepticism evident in his voice. Tanaka nodded confidently. We've run every simulation possible. The Artemis is ready. But a ship is only as good as its crew, interjected Admiral George Mendoza. We've selected the best of the best from every nation. They've trained for years in secret for this very scenario. General Chen activated another hologram, displaying profiles of the chosen crew members. Allow me to introduce you to humanity's last hope. The images flickered to life. Captain Zora Okoi, a brilliant tactician from Nigeria with nerves of steel. Chief Engineer Dmitry Volkov, a Russian wonderkind who could coax miracles from machinery. Dr. Ava Patel, an Indian xenobiologist prepared for any alien encounter. Lieutenant Jin Park, a South Korean ace pilot with reflexes that bordered on precognition. And rounding out the senior crew, Security Chief Maya Rodriguez, a former Mexican Special Forces operator who could outfight anyone human or alien. These 5, along with a hand-picked support crew, will be our sword and shield, Chen declared. The U.S. president leaned forward, his face etched with concern. It's a solid plan, General, but we're betting everything on one ship. If the Artemis fails, then humanity falls, Chen finished grimly. But the alternative is waiting here to be conquered or annihilated. The Artemis is our only chance to take the fight to them, to show these aliens that Earth won't go quietly. As if on cue, alarms blared throughout the facility. Araya's voice cut through the chaos. General, we're detecting multiple small craft entering the atmosphere. It appears to be an advanced scouting party. Chen's eyes hardened. Time to launch is now. Get the Artemis airborne. The next hours were a blur of activity, as Earth's military forces engaged the alien scouts in a series of feints and diversions. The ESS Artemis was prepared for launch in a hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. Captain Okoi strapped herself into the command chair, her crew at their stations around her. The ship hummed with power, systems coming online as the launch countdown began. This is it, Okoi breathed, her voice carrying to every corner of the ship. Everything humanity is, everything we could be, now rests with us. We carry the hopes and dreams of billions. Failure is not an option. As the final seconds ticked away, Okoye allowed herself one last look at the live feed from the surface. Alien ships streaked across the sky, humanity's defensive lines already beginning to buckle. "Artemis, you are clear for launch." General Chen's voice crackled over the comm. "Godspeed, and give them hell." The ocean above them began to churn and part. Okoye's hands tightened on her armrests. Initiating launch sequence. May fortune favor the bold. With a roar that shook the earth, the ESS Artemis rose from its watery berth, humanity's lone warship ascending to meet its destiny among the stars. The battle for Earth and the future of the human race had begun. The ESS Artemis streaked through Earth's upper atmosphere, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to both human and alien sensors. In the command chair, Captain Zara Okoye's eyes were fixed on the tactical display, watching as the alien fleet moved into position around Jupiter. "Status report," she ordered, her voice calm despite the weight of humanity's fate on her shoulders. "Dark matter reactor at 98% efficiency," Chief Engineer Volkov reported from his station. "Graviton beam weapons primed and ready. Quantum shields are holding stable." Lieutenant Park's hands danced over the navigation controls. "On approach to Jupiter's orbit, Captain. ETA to intercept. 3 minutes." Dr. Patel's voice came next, tinged with excitement and apprehension. "Xenobiology scans are active. I'm collecting data on the alien fleet's biosignatures. There's something odd about their energy readings." "Save it for later, Doctor," Okoye interrupted. "Right now, we need to focus on the task at hand." She turned to her security chief. "Rodriguez, battle stations. This is not a drill." As klaxons sounded throughout the ship, Okoye opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. In moments, we will engage an alien force that threatens our home, our families, everything we hold dear. We are outnumbered and outgunned, but not outmatched. Remember your training. Trust in this ship and in each other. Today, we fight not just for Earth, but for the very future of humanity." Okoye out. The Artemis decelerated as it approached the Jovian system, using the gas giant's intense magnetic field to mask its approach. Ahead, the alien fleet hung in space, a dozen capital ships surrounded by smaller craft, their hulls gleaming with an otherworldly iridescence. "They haven't detected us yet," Park reported, a note of disbelief in his voice. Okoye allowed herself a small smile. "Then let's introduce ourselves. Mr. Park, plot an attack vector. Dr. Patel, identify their command ship. Mr. Volkov, divert all non-essential power to weapons and shields. Chief Rodriguez, target their engines and weapons systems. Let's show them what humanity can do." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency, the culmination of years of training evident in every action. As the final preparations were made, an eerie calm settled over the Artemis. "Attack vector plotted, Captain," Park announced. "We'll slingshot around Io for a strike on their flank." Okoye nodded. "Execute." The Artemis surged forward, its revolutionary propulsion system allowing it to maneuver in ways that defied conventional physics. As they rounded Io, the alien fleet finally came into view, massive, imposing, and utterly unprepared for what was about to hit them. "Weapons range in 5, 4, 3. Rodriguez counted down. "Fire at will," Okoye commanded. The space around the Artemis warped as its graviton beam weapons discharged. Lances of distorted space-time sliced through the void, impacting the nearest alien ship before its sensors could even register the attack. The effect was devastating. Huge sections of the alien vessel crumpled in on themselves, crushed by localized gravitational fields millions of times stronger than Earth's. For a moment, the alien fleet seemed to freeze in shock. Then, all hell broke loose. Energy beams and plasma torpedoes filled space as the aliens returned fire, their initial confusion quickly giving way to coordinated attack patterns. But the Artemis was already moving, its quantum shields flickering as they deflected incoming fire. "Evasive maneuvers," Okoye ordered. Mr. Park, keep us in their blind spots. Mr. Volkov, I need more power to the shields. The ship bucked and weaved through the onslaught, Park's piloting skills put to the ultimate test. Volkov's hands flew over his console, rerouting power and pushing the ship's systems to their limits. As the battle raged, Dr. Patel's eyes widened at her display. Captain, I've isolated a weakness in their shield modulation. If we can hit their power cores with a precisely tuned graviton pulse. Okoye didn't hesitate. Do it. Rodriguez, coordinate with Patel. I want a killing blow on their command ship. The Artemis dove towards the heart of the alien formation, weathering a storm of enemy fire. At the last possible moment, it unleashed a concentrated graviton pulse. The alien flagship's shields flickered and failed, followed by a series of cascading explosions along its hull. As the enormous vessel began to break apart, stunned silence fell over the Artemis's bridge. They had done it, landed a crippling blow against a vastly superior force. But their victory was short-lived. Alarms blared as the remaining alien ships regrouped, their attacks intensifying. Multiple hull breaches, Rodriguez shouted, shields failing. Okoye gripped her chair, mind racing. They had bloodied the alien's nose, but the real fight was just beginning. All hands, brace for impact. This is far from over. As the Artemis plunged back into the fray, the fate of humanity hung in the balance, with only a single warship and its determined crew standing between Earth and total annihilation. The ESS Artemis limped away from the Jovian battlefield, leaving behind a graveyard of twisted alien metal and the shattered remains of humanity's innocence. Captain Okoye stood at the viewport, her reflection ghostly against the star-studded backdrop of space. "Damage report," she said, her voice hoarse from hours of shouting orders. Chief Engineer Volkov's response crackled through the comm system, punctuated by the sounds of frantic repair work. "It's not pretty, Captain. Primary power at 62%. Hull integrity compromised in sections 4 through 7. Graviton weapons offline. We're running on auxiliary life support." Okoye closed her eyes, allowing herself a moment of despair before squaring her shoulders. "What's the good news, Mr. Volkov?" A chuckle came through the speaker. "We're still alive, and a quantum drive is functional. We can make one, maybe 2 jumps before it needs a full restart." "That'll have to do," Okoye replied. She turned to her navigation officer. "Lieutenant Park, plot a course out of the system. Random vector, maximum distance." Park's fingers danced across his console. "Course plotted, Captain. But where are we going?" Okoye's gaze hardened. "To find allies. We've bloodied the nose of an empire, but Earth can't stand alone. There must be others out there who've suffered under alien rule." As the Artemis prepared to jump, Dr. Patel burst onto the bridge, her eyes wild with excitement. "Captain, the data we collected, it's incredible. The aliens, they're not just an empire. They're parasites." Okoye raised an eyebrow. "Explain, Doctor." Patel called up a holographic display, showing the intricate biology of their adversaries. Their cellular structure is unlike anything we've seen. They don't just conquer worlds. They absorb the essence of the species they defeat. It's how they've advanced so quickly, assimilating the strengths of countless civilizations. A hush fell over the bridge as the implications sank in. They weren't just fighting for Earth anymore, but for the very concept of individual identity across the galaxy. "Jump in 3, 2, 1. Park's voice cut through the silence. The stars blurred, and the Artemis leaped into the unknown. They emerged in an unfamiliar system, a binary star casting dual shadows across a field of asteroids. As the crew worked to get their bearings, alarms blared. "Multiple contacts." Security Chief Rodriguez shouted. "Small craft. Closing fast." Okoye's mind raced. Evasive maneuvers. Shields up. But before they could react, their view screen flickered to life, showing a face that was almost, but not quite, human. Unidentified vessel. A melodious voice rang out. "You have entered Syntheri space. State your intentions or be destroyed. Okoye stepped forward, her voice steady. I am Captain Zora Okoye of the Earth ship Artemis. We come seeking allies against a common enemy. There was a pause. Then, Earth, we know of no such world. But your ship, it bears battle scars from Zaxthan weapons. The very same, Okoye confirmed. We've struck a blow against their fleet, but our world stands on the brink of annihilation. We need help. The alien face softened almost imperceptibly. Follow us to the hidden city. Your arrival was foretold in the ancient prophecies. Perhaps you are the key to our liberation. As the Artemis was escorted through a shimmering energy field, a breathtaking sight was revealed. A massive space station, camouflaged among the asteroids, teeming with life and technology. Welcome, the alien voice said, to the last free haven in this sector. I am Sinzera, leader of the resistance. Okoye turned to her crew, hope kindling in her eyes. It seems we found our allies. Now we plan our next move. But even as they docked with the hidden city, dark forces were stirring. In the depths of Zaxthan space, the Emperor raged at the loss of his fleet. Agents were dispatched, bounties posted across the galaxy. The hunt for the Artemis had begun. And on Earth, as the alien armada regrouped for their final assault, General Chen received a coded quantum transmission. First blood drawn. Seeking reinforcements. Hope remains. Artemis out. The message was brief, but its impact was profound. Humanity had won its first victory among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Zaxthan Emperor's chamber was a study in opulence and terror. Bioluminescent creatures writhed in transparent pillars, casting an eerie glow over the assembled war council. At the center, Emperor Zexkaloth seethed with barely contained rage. Incompetence, he roared, his voice reverberating through the cavernous room. An entire fleet, bested by a single ship from a backwater world. Admiral Vexcor, once proud and assured, now cowered before his emperor. My lord, we underestimated their technology. This ship, this Artemis, it wields weapons beyond our understanding. Zexkaloth's eyes narrowed. Then we will tear the galaxy apart until we find it. Assimilate its secrets. And then we will crush this Earth and add their essence to our own. As orders were dispatched across the Empire, the ESS Artemis found itself in a race against time. Within the hidden city of the Synthuri, Captain Okoye stood before a council of resistance leaders, species from a dozen worlds, each bearing the scars of Zaxthan oppression, listened intently as she recounted Earth's stand against the Empire. Your victory, however small, has given us hope, Sinzera said, her luminous eyes fixed on Okoye. But the Zaxthan will not rest. Already our spies report increased patrols, tightened security across all subjugated worlds. Okoye nodded grimly. Then we must strike quickly, before they can consolidate their forces. My crew has been analyzing the data we gathered during our battle. We believe we found a weakness in their neural network. Dr. Paddle stepped forward, activating a holographic display. The Zaxthan's ability to absorb other species' traits is both their strength and their vulnerability. Their ships are connected in a vast psychic web, allowing for instantaneous communication and coordination. But, interjected Chief Engineer Volkov, this connection goes both ways. A properly tuned electromagnetic pulse could disrupt their entire fleet's cognitive functions. A murmur of excitement rippled through the assembled aliens. For the first time in centuries, there was a glimmer of hope against the seemingly invincible empire. As plans were made and alliances forged, the Artemis underwent repairs, its human technology melding with Synthuri advancements. But their respite was short-lived. Alarms blared throughout the hidden city. Lieutenant Park's voice crackled over the comms. Captain, we've got incoming. Massive Zaxthan fleet, at least 3 times the size of what we faced at Jupiter. Okoye raced to the Artemis's bridge, her mind racing. How did they find us so quickly? Sinzera's face appeared on the view screen, her expression grim. There's only one explanation. We have a traitor in our midst. As chaos erupted in the hidden city, the Artemis prepared for launch. But this time, they weren't alone. A ragtag fleet of resistance ships formed up around them, ready to make their stand. All ships, this is Captain Okoye. Her voice rang out across the combined fleet. Today, we fight not just for Earth, not just for the Xanthuri, but for every world that has suffered under Zaxthan tyranny. We may be outnumbered, but we have something they can never understand. The strength that comes from our diversity, our individuality. The space around the hidden city lit up with weapons fire as the Zaxthan fleet descended upon them. The Artemis led the charge, its newly upgraded systems pushing the limits of known physics. In the heart of the battle, as ships exploded and lives were lost on both sides, Dr. Patel made a startling discovery. "Captain," she shouted over the din of combat, "I'm detecting an anomaly at the edge of the system. Some kind of temporal distortion." Before Okoye could respond, a blinding light engulfed the battlefield. When it faded, a massive structure had appeared, ancient, alien, and pulsing with unimaginable power. "By the gods," Sinzera whispered, her voice filled with awe. "The nexus of creation. It's real." As both Zaxthan and resistance forces stared in wonder at the impossible artifact, Okoye realized that the true battle for the fate of the galaxy was only just beginning. The Artemis had inadvertently awakened something ancient and powerful, something that could tip the scales of the war, if only they could reach it first. "All ships," Okoye commanded, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment, "converge on that structure. Whatever it is, we cannot let it fall into Zaxthan hands." The Artemis surged forward, leading the charge once again. But as they raced toward the Nexus, a chilling realization set in. They were not only fighting the Zaxthan now, but racing against the very fabric of space and time itself. The Nexus of creation loomed before the Artemis, a colossal structure of impossible geometry that seemed to shift and warp as they approached. Captain Okoye's knuckles were white on the arms of her command chair as she barked orders. "Mr. Park, full thrust. Dr. Patel, what can you tell me about that thing?" Patel's fingers flew across her console, her eyes wide with wonder and fear. It's incredible, Captain. The energy readings are off the charts. It seems to be generating its own localized space-time field. I think it might be some kind of cosmic shipyard." "A shipyard?" Okoye's brow furrowed. "For building what?" Before Patel could respond, the space around them erupted in chaos. Zaxthan ships swarmed from all directions, their weapons blazing. The resistance fleet scattered, taking heavy losses. "Evasive maneuvers," Okoye shouted. "Volkov, I need more power to the shields." The Artemis dove and weaved through the onslaught, its advanced technology barely keeping it ahead of the Zaxthan onslaught. But they were vastly outnumbered, and even their superior ship couldn't hold out forever. Suddenly, a familiar voice crackled over the comms. "Artemis, this is Sinzera. We'll hold them off. You get to the Nexus. It's our only hope." Okoye watched in awe as the Xanthuri flagship threw itself into the path of the oncoming Zaxthan armada, buying them precious seconds. "Thank you, old friend," Okoye whispered, then turned to her crew. "You heard her. Let's make it count." The Artemis surged forward, slipping through a gap in the Zaxthan lines. As they approached the Nexus, strange energies washed over the ship, playing havoc with their systems. "Captain," Volkov's panicked voice came over the intercom. "The dark matter reactor is destabilizing. We're losing power." Okoye gritted her teeth. "Reroute everything we got left to propulsion. We have to reach that structure." With a final burst of speed, the Artemis breached the energy field surrounding the Nexus. Suddenly, all was quiet. The sounds of battle faded away, replaced by an eerie, pulsing hum. "We're inside," Park said, his voice filled with wonder. Before them stretched a vast chamber, filled with swirling energies and half-formed shapes that hurt the eyes to look at directly. At the center stood a pedestal, upon which rested a pulsing, crystalline orb. "That's it," Patel breathed. "The control interface. If we can activate it, we might be able to use the Nexus against the Zaxthin." Okoye nodded grimly. "Rodriguez, you're with me. The rest of you, guard the ship. Be ready for anything." As Okoye and Rodriguez made their way towards the pedestal, a chilling laugh echoed through the chamber. From the shadows emerged a familiar figure, Vexicor, the Zaxthin admiral. "Did you really think you could outrun the Empire?" he sneered. "We've chased you across the stars, and now the power of the ancients will be ours." Rodriguez drew her weapon, but Okoye held up a hand. "Wait. Admiral, you don't understand what's at stake here. The Zaxthin Empire isn't the pinnacle of evolution you think it is. It's a dead end." Vexicor hesitated, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "Explain yourself, human. Your species absorbs the traits of others." "Yes," Okoye continued, slowly edging towards the pedestal. "But in doing so, you've lost the ability to truly evolve, to innovate. That's why our single ship was able to deal you such a blow. We may be younger, but we're not shackled by the past." For a moment, doubt flickered in Vexicor's eyes, but then his expression hardened. "Lies. The Empire is eternal, and with the power of the Nexus, we shall." His words were cut short as the crystalline orb suddenly flared to life. Tendrils of energy snaked out, enveloping both Okoye and Vexicor. Okoye gasped as alien knowledge flooded her mind. The Nexus wasn't just a shipyard, it was a test. A crucible created by an ancient race to judge which species were worthy of inheriting the stars. And in that moment, facing the enormity of the galaxy's history and future, Okoye made a choice that would echo across eternity. With a supreme effort of will, she reached out, not to destroy Vexicor, but to connect with him. To share the vision of what could be if their species worked together instead of fighting. The chamber filled with blinding light as the Nexus responded to this unexpected act of empathy. Outside, the battle came to a sudden, confused halt as every ship, Zaxthin and Resistance alike, was enveloped in the same glow. When it faded, the war-torn fleets found themselves transformed. Weapons had become tools of creation. Shields now generated healing energies. And at the heart of it all, the Artemis emerged, reborn as a shining beacon of unity and hope. The real journey, Okoye realized, was just beginning. The stars awaited, and humanity would meet them not as conquerors, but as bridges between worlds. The transformed Artemis hung in space, its hull now a seamless blend of human ingenuity and cosmic power. On the bridge, Captain Okoye stood side by side with Admiral Vexicor, their previous enmity replaced by a fragile understanding. "We must return to Earth," Okoye said, her voice firm. "Your Emperor still threatens my homeworld." Vexicor nodded, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "The Emperor will not easily abandon the old ways, but perhaps there is another path." As they plotted their course back to the Sol system, the unlikely alliance of former foes and resistance fighters prepared for their greatest challenge yet. The Nexus had granted them incredible power, but they knew that the true test would be in how they used it. Back on Earth, the situation had grown dire. The Zaxthin invasion fleet loomed over the planet, their weapons primed to reduce humanity's cradle to ashes. In underground bunkers and hastily assembled command centers, the last of Earth's defenders prepared for what they believed would be their final stand. General Chen stood before a wall of monitors, each showing a different part of the globe. Cities lay in ruins, armies were scattered, and hope was fading fast. But Chen's eyes never left the stars, searching for any sign of the Artemis return. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the command center. Multiple contacts dropping out of FTL. A young lieutenant shouted, It's the Artemis, and they've brought reinforcements." Chen's heart soared as she watched the transformed Artemis lead a vast armada of ships, a mix of former Zaxton vessels and resistance craft, into the system. But her joy was short-lived as the Emperor's flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed even the largest capital ships, moved to intercept. In space, Okoi's voice rang out across all frequencies. "Attention, Zaxton Empire and defenders of Earth. We come not to conquer, but to offer a new way forward. The Nexus has shown us a vision of unity, of evolution beyond conflict. Stand down your weapons, and let us forge a new future together." For a moment, there was silence. Then, the Emperor's voice boomed in response. "Traitors and weaklings, the Empire does not bend, it does not change. We are the pinnacle of evolution, and we will not be swayed by your foolish idealism." With that declaration, the Emperor's flagship unleashed a barrage of fire unlike anything seen before. The transformed fleet scattered, their new abilities pushed to the limit as they sought to protect Earth from the onslaught. "All ships, defensive formation Delta," Okoi commanded. "Concentrate your energy fields. We need to contain the damage." As the battle raged, Dr. Patel made a startling discovery. "Captain, the Emperor's ship, it's not just a vessel. It's a massive biocomputer. It's the source of the psychic network, controlling the entire Zaxton race." Vexcor's eyes widened in realization. Of course, that's how the Emperor has maintained control for so long. If we can disrupt that network, we can free your people. Okoi finished. She turned to her crew. "Volkov, Park, I need options. How do we get aboard that ship?" As the Artemis crew worked feverishly to formulate a plan, the battle around Earth reached a fever pitch. The transformed fleet's defensive capabilities were incredible, but the Emperor's wrath seemed endless. Cities flashed into existence and crumbled in moments as reality itself warped under the strain of cosmic energies unleashed. In a desperate gambit, Okoi made a decision that would alter the course of galactic history. "All ships converge on the Emperor's flagship. We're going to use the Artemis as a conduit for the Nexus power. We'll either break through their defenses, or—" She left the alternative unspoken. The risk was enormous. Channeling such power could tear the fabric of space-time itself. But as she looked at the faces of her crew, at Vexicor, and at the battered Earth hanging in space before them, she knew it was their only choice. Initiating convergence sequence, Park announced, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. As the transformed fleet moved into position, the Artemis began to glow with an otherworldly light. Energy arced between ships, forming a vast, shimmering web with the Artemis at its heart. "Whatever happens," Okoi said, her eyes fixed on the looming form of the Emperor's ship, "it's been an honor serving with all of you. For Earth, for the galaxy, for our shared future. Let's finish this." With a blinding flash, the accumulated power of the Nexus, channeled through the will of countless beings united in purpose, lashed out towards the heart of the Zaxton Empire. The fate of multiple civilizations hung in the balance as two visions of the future collided in a cataclysm of cosmic proportions. The universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see which path evolution would take. The universe seemed to hold its breath as the combined power of the Nexus, channeled through the Artemis and its allied fleet, collided with the Emperor's flagship. For a moment, reality itself appeared to fracture, space-time bending and warping around the point of impact. Then, with a soundless explosion that rippled across the cosmos, the Emperor's ship shattered. But instead of debris, it released a burst of pure information, the accumulated knowledge and experiences of countless assimilated species. As the psychic network binding the Zaxton race dissolved, Okoi and her crew watched in awe as the invading fleet underwent a startling transformation. Ships reconfigured themselves, weapon systems morphing into tools of creation and exploration. On the Artemis's bridge, Admiral Vexcor fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the sudden freedom of thought. It's over," he whispered. "For the first time in millennia, we are individuals again. Okoi placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. Not just individuals, she said softly, but part of something greater, a community of free beings. As the immediate threats subsided, the monumental task of rebuilding began. The Artemis, now a symbol of unity and hope, became the centerpiece of a new galactic council. Representatives from Earth, the former Zaxthan Empire, and the Resistance gathered to forge a path forward. Dr. Patel's voice was filled with excitement as she addressed the assembly. The data released from the Emperor's ship is a treasure trove of scientific knowledge. With this, we can cure diseases, reverse ecological damage, even restore worlds once thought lost. Volkov chimed in, his eyes gleaming with possibilities. And the Nexus technology. It's not just for ships. We can use it to create a network of instantaneous transportation across the galaxy. No world need ever be isolated again. As weeks turned to months, and months to years, the galaxy underwent a renaissance of cooperation and discovery. Earth, once on the brink of destruction, became a beacon of innovation, its cities gleaming examples of harmonious coexistence between diverse species. The former Zaxthan, freed from their parasitic past, turned their assimilation abilities towards mutual understanding, becoming diplomats and cultural bridges between vastly different civilizations. Yet, challenges remained. Not all embraced the new order. Pockets of resistance, those who clung to old hatreds or feared change, required patience and persistence to bring into the fold. The Artemis and its crew often found themselves mediating conflicts and solving crises across the stars. 5 years after the Battle of Earth, Captain Okoi stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, a massive space habitat orbiting the planet once known only as HD 219,134 bits. Beside her stood Vexicor, now a respected leader in the Galactic Council. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out like this?" Vexicor asked, his voice tinged with wonder as they watched ships of all designs coming and going from the bustling spaceport. Okoi smiled, shaking her head. "Never in my wildest dreams. When we first launched from Earth, I thought we were on a suicide mission. Now look at us. Explorers, peacekeepers, builders of a better future." Their conversation was interrupted by a priority message from Lieutenant Park, still serving aboard the Artemis. "Captain, we're picking up unusual readings from beyond the galactic rim. It looks like another Nexus point is activating." Okoi and Vexicor shared a look of excitement and apprehension. "Well, old friend," Okoi said with a grin, "it seems the universe isn't finished with us yet." As they hurried to the Artemis, Okoi felt a familiar thrill coursing through her. The quest that had begun with one lone warship had transformed not just humanity, but an entire galaxy. And now, new horizons beckoned. "All hands, prepare for departure," she commanded as she took her place on the bridge. The crew, human, former Zaxthan, and a dozen other species, worked in seamless harmony around her. As the Artemis disengaged from Unity Station, its hull shimmering with the power of the Nexus, Okoi couldn't help but feel a sense of profound gratitude. They had faced extinction and emerged as something greater, a testament to the indomitable spirit of not just humanity, but of all sentient life. "Helm, set a course for the unknown," she ordered, her voice strong and clear. "Let's see what wonders await us out there." The Artemis leaped into faster-than-light travel, a shining emblem of hope streaking across the cosmos. The galaxy, once on the brink of eternal tyranny, now pulsed with the endless possibilities of a united, diverse, and free civilization. And somewhere, in the depths of space, the ancient creators of the Nexus looked upon their work and smiled. The children of the stars had passed the test, and the future burned bright with promise.